Hey everybody, as you can see today is a bit of a dingy and very cold day, and that leads me nicely onto my subject about, action cameras and low light. And where's the night vision at? So the way a digital camera works is it has a sensor in it which is the equivalent of the film in an old film camera. It is basically a surface which the light touches, and that's where it records the image. Now as time's gone on, these sensors have got smaller and more capable and better and better and better. You still want to have a larger one for low light though, because the more light you can have into the lens, the better the image you will have. Otherwise you're going to have to start boosting basically what each of the sort of, let's call them dots on the sensor sees, because it will have to amplify that in low light, and that's where you get noise. And they've got better and better at making these dots, as we'll call them. It's really not like that, but it simplifies it, more sensitive, so they don't get so much noise from low light. But you still need long exposure times at night for still photography, so video's just not going to work. If you see a video at 60 FPS, know that that image is taken, it's 1/60th of a second, which is a bit slow. If I was taking pictures freehand, I'd want it to be at least 100th of a second, otherwise it could have blur in it, even in reasonably good light. So one of the things you can do to improve your action camera's nighttime capability is reduce it from 60 frames a second to 30 frames a second, or even 24, because now you're letting each frame have a 24th or a 30th of a second to take that light in to get the image. But the reason we like 60 FPS is because it means it's a very smooth, crisp image, but it needs light for that. So now we know that. Night vision, how does night vision work? Well, there's a couple of different versions really. There's IR illuminated ones, which basically use infrared light, and the camera can see infrared light, humans can't see it, and it's great. You can basically have a torch of invisible light, but you need that light for it to be able to see what's there, so it only works within the throw of the torch. Another way is image intensifying, which is exactly the same as what I was talking about earlier with sensors with low light capabilities that can increase very low light levels massively without much noise at all. The BBC had cameras called starlight cameras years ago, and they were really impressive. Now they've gone way beyond that at this point, because night vision, as I say, that used to use either image intensifying or IR illumination, is now using a multi-spectral digital sensor, which is doing way more than the old night vision used to be able to do. It uses natural daylight colours, it also uses IR, and it also uses other bits of the light spectrum. Remember the radiation, radio signals, light, microwaves, everything is the same thing, it's just energy at a different wavelength. So as I say, as time's gone on, action cameras have really been dragging in their low light capabilities. Now the reason for, and to be fair, they have got a lot better, and some are pretty good. But if you want to ride a bike at night, for instance, and you want 60 FPS, it's going to be really dark, and it's nowhere near as good as the human eye. Now, night cameras have gone way beyond what the human eye is capable of, so it's possible for it to happen in an action camera, and I think it would be really cool. And it's kind of one of my future projections. I've done videos in the past about things I think we'll see in the future relatively soon. I feel like really good low light, as in night vision capabilities of an action camera, is something that's been missing for a long time, and I do think the action cameras are going to get on it, because they're running out of features to add really. You just want good quality video, okay? Maybe some slow-mo stuff. Insta360 is doing some really cool stuff with, their 360 cameras. I have many videos on, I use them myself. The only problem I can see is this: trying to get a sensor that good in an action camera is difficult because it's so small. You need a bigger sensor. If you have a bigger sensor, you have to have a bigger lens generally, and you need a bigger camera body. So now you've got a bigger camera. It also is going to require more power for the bigger sensor, so that's going to be a problem because you're going to need a big battery, and to get the running time that you need, you might need to use a battery bigger than what the camera body needed to be because of the light sensor. And now you're talking about a camera which is getting really big just to get you 2 hours of recording or an hour's recording. And now if you want to get all this tech into the smallest camera possible, well, then you get overheating issues that people have discovered with GoPros in recent years, that they are cramming in sensors and batteries into a very small space, and when you run those at high bit rates and high resolutions, it's using the whole sensor, it really does start to get hot and overheat the cameras. So, although I can see why it may not have happened yet, I do think we're going to see it happen soon-ish. The next few years, I think they're going to push the low light capabilities into night vision. Because think how cool it would be for vlogs at night. You know, even if you've got good low light capabilities, it's a bit boring to watch because you can't see a lot. If you're on a normal GoPro like mine and you're running it at 60 FPS, well then it looks pitch black with just lights here and you don't see anything unless you're in a very well lit area. Very often people think that that's what your like headlight is really like, and they get terrified, and you're like, no, the human eye is so much better than this camera. But that's the thing, as I say, many devices that we have increased the human ability to do a job, and seeing, yeah, cameras can do that better than humans can't. Well, kind of. Certainly for zoom. We don't have that. But when it comes to low light, our eyes are really quite impressive. But then you have to remember that the way our eyes work at night is we shut down a lot of the colour receptors, as it were, so you're dealing with a much more monotony sort of picture, which are more sensitive. It's to do with the rods and the cones, and I'm trying to remember which way around it is. I'm not going to quite do it because I'll probably get it wrong. Cones are for colour, rods are for brightness, sort of thing. That's a very poor explanation of it, but basically those cells in your eyes become super sensitive as it gets dark. So basically as it gets dark, your eye shuts off the colour side and it sort of image intensifies the rest of your vision. But with that, it won't be very clear other than exactly where you're looking. Humans, you might think when you look, you see a nice clear vision of everything as you look forward, but really our centre of focus is tiny. Outside of that, most things are out of focus. But of course, when you want to look at that thing in focus, you just look at it and then it's in focus. You see what I'm saying here? So humans' eyesight isn't nearly as good as you might think. If you're watching a flat screen, you're getting a very weird perspective of the world because everything is in focus because the camera can see it that way, and you're looking at everything at the same distance, so you're not getting depth of field, and that's something that I don't know if many people realise that. You shouldn't be able to see things the way you do in videos, but it doesn't feel unnatural. Because our brain kind of like gets so much information and then interpolates the rest of it and just makes it up. There is also new types of sensors coming which are super sensitive. Like, it's really quite impressive what they might be capable of. I think they're called like quanta sensors or quiz, something like that is the abbreviation. But yeah, there is always new technology coming, so it's not a case necessarily of increasing the old stuff. A step can come along that will take things way beyond where we used to be, and it will happen eventually. You know, we'll have GoPros which will have incredibly good night capabilities without any added extra light. Yeah, if you've got anything to add, please do comment below. If you enjoyed the video, smack that like button, and if you want to help support this channel, please consider doing that through Patreon. I would appreciate it, especially as I'm about to do a load of work to this bike. I made a bit of a whoopsie. I filled it up with fuel yesterday, and I now realise that I need to work on it, and I don't want to have the tank full of fuel. Also, it's filthy, so I've got to clean it before I can get on with it. Oh dear. Yeah, anyway, till the next one. Bye bye.